from all of the hundreds of students I've spoken to, the first domino is Salah. The moment we compromise Salah, everything else just comes crashing down. Don't be like those who forgot Allah. He made them forget themselves. They don't know who they really are anymore. I think people have a lot of practical challenges first day, first week of university. But if I can steal your words, it comes down to those initial experiences comes down to, do I have a backbone? Yeah, to steal your words. Like, how do I respond to those things? It comes back to a backbone. And it's that backbone of Iman, right? Which is, what is Iman? It is who I am. It is why I'm here. It is my version of reality. My version of reality is that I was put here by God, by Allah, and I'm going back to Him. And on this earth, I'm surrounded by the angels. And I was sent a messenger, and I was sent revelation. I was sent the Quran, and I am on this earth for a purpose. That's my Iman. That's my version of reality. Now, if you hold that, then it's very hard to be swayed, depending on how deeply it's ingrained in you. The more of a cultural thing it is, or the more of I'm a Muslim, i.e. I'm a South Asian, the more of an ethnic thing it is, the more of a cultural thing it is, the much more likely you are to be swayed left, right, and center.
Yeah, because I think people kind of reading the title of this podcast, starting university as a Muslim student, they're probably expecting, okay, what do I do when someone asks me to the club? Or what do I do if there's alcohol in the fridge? Or what do I do if the opposite gender reaches out to shake my hand? What do I say? What do I do? But really, anyone can say no to the club, or kind of try and set boundaries with the alcohol in the kitchen, or say no to shaking your hand. But it's not the words that you say, but rather the conviction that you have as you're saying it. And like you said, that backbone, it goes down to your character.
Yeah.
And if your character is one where you don't have firm principles, you don't have firm kind of rules for yourself based on Islam, then we can tell you all day to say no to the club, but you're going to still say yes.
Yeah. Imagine, Yusuf alayhi salam in the palace, right? He's been approached by this lady. She's locked the doors. She's inviting him. She's trying to seduce him. And the first words that escape his lips, Ma'adallah, may Allah protect me. And the first thing he asks Allah, oh Allah, I'd much prefer being in prison than being in the palace. And that is I don't think anybody's ever made that dua before. Oh Allah, please send me to prison. It's not a common one, And it comes back down to that conviction. For me to please Allah is the greatest thing, is the greatest objective of my life. And I wouldn't be satisfied, I wouldn't be happy if I was compromising on that one bit. So I lost out on the university experience of being in student accommodation to be in private accommodation. But I was safeguarding myself. And it's that question of, you go to university and it's sold to you like this is the sea of opportunity. Society, poetry society, this, that, this social, that social, this, you want to make friends, you want to discover who you really are. But it's not about discovering who you really are. From a Muslim perspective, it exposes who you really are. It burns away the fat. And then you say, oh goodness, this is who I really am. I'm the shapeshifter. I'm the chameleon. When I'm with the Muslims, I'm saying, yes, mashallah, akhi, yes, ukhti, subhanallah. And then I'm with my mates, I'm a completely different person.
Yeah, bro, what are you saying, fam?
What are you saying, fam? Yeah, I have some lemonade at the pub, right? I'm there, I'm a shapeshifter. So who am I really? I don't even know myself. And it's actually the most scary position to be in. Allah says, وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ. Don't be like those who forgot Allah. فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُمْ. He made them forget themselves. They don't know who they really are anymore. That's like the ultimate dilemma. You have to build yourself from the ground up now. So.
Wow. So really cut deep to the core of what it means to not even start university, but being thrust into an environment where you have to hold your own.
You have to hold your own.
You have to hold your own. You have to hold your beliefs. You have to hold that why.
You have to hold that why. That why is at the center. Then you draw the red lines around that. I think a lot of people, they discover Islam at university. They discover they discover Allah at university.
They revert essentially.
They essentially revert. They find their way back. And it's in that sense, it's that opportunity where you are running away from everything. You don't know where to go. And the only way to run is you run towards Allah.
Yeah. So we've discussed that why, that core. Let's discuss those red lines now. Those whys, how do they manifest in the experiences, the universal experiences that Muslim students will experience when they start university? And let's go back to that first day. Let's picture you start Hisham on your first day. You get into accommodation. Accommodation's okay because you've got Muslim accommodation, but then you go into the campus and you get your goodie bag, you get your kind of peers asking you to go to the club. We've kind of talked about what goes through your brain with the why, but how do you practically approach that?
Yeah, I remember the first thing I was asked, like, hey, come around to the pub with us. Like, everybody goes to the pub on a Friday. Like, what do you do? I was like, no, I'm a Muslim. We don't drink, so I'm not really, I'm not interested. Obviously, I didn't say I'm not interested. I think that's one thing. It's important. You don't have to be confrontational. So there's two extremes. Like, you don't have to acquiesce. You don't have to like give in, but you don't also have to like have like a fist fight for no reason or a verbal fight. It doesn't have to be. So, I just politely decline. They're like, oh, come on. Not even a lemonade. And then the worst thing for me was, but there's other Muslims coming with us. Why is it just you? Like, oh, okay. Right. So either I have to disown my own or I have to justify or I have to say that I am an extra orthodox, strict Muslim. Right. So I was like, no, this is just how it is. I think there is a FOMO. Under the surface, you're at university, you're here to you're here to learn, you're here to meet people, you're here to develop yourself. But there is, at some extent, like, what am I missing out by not being at the pub, by not being in this situation, by not being at that society, in this mixed gathering? What am I missing out? And it's knowing that it's that deep conviction that I'm not missing out on anything, right? In the ultimate form, I'm not missing out on anything. And it's knowing that there's another safe haven for me to return to. Like, okay, all these guys have gone to XYZ place. The alternative isn't me sitting alone at home sobbing in the corner. The alternative is me finding my people. Yeah. Right? Allah says, وَاصْبِرْ نَفْسَكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ. Find yourself with those people who call upon their Lord morning and evening, seeking His pleasure, seeking His face. So, who are those people turning themselves towards Allah? Those are my people. Even when Nuh alayhi salam's son, his own blood son, drowns, he says, oh Allah, forgive him. Innahu min ahli. This is my family. Allah says, Innahu laysa min ahlik. This ain't your family. This is not your familiar. Right? Find your familiar, and it's not this guy. It's not this boy. It's not this person. It's those people who remind you of Allah. So that, going back to that first day, come round to the pub. It's just a lemonade. No, thank you. It's okay. And I walked in the other direction, straight to the Islamic Society and straight to the masjid. There's a bunch of guys sitting there having pizza in the house of Allah. And, yes, they're chilling, they're chatting, but it's time for Salah, everybody gets up. And the remembrance of Allah is happening. And there is that shared value between us, It's not, we're not there. One of the interesting things, the only similar experience I find is like Umrah or Hajj, because you have people from like 20, 30 different nationalities, ethnicities. The only thing that's binding them is La ilaha illallah, is their beliefs. You find yourself there, you find your safe haven, it's much easier to say no to other things because you're not missing out. You got your alternative.
Yeah. It's almost as though FOMO only exists, the fear of missing out only exists when you don't have something else to fill out that thing that you're missing out on. Yeah. If that makes sense. If you've gone to university and the first people that you meet are the ones that want to go to the club and the pub, and you have to decline, of course you're going to feel FOMO. Yeah. Because you are missing out on something and there's nothing else to fill that hole up with. In that sense then, do you think it's important to not just hope to find your own people? You have to actively find them.
You have to. It's like I said, if you don't find that safety net, you're free falling. And that fall can cause serious damage. But if you fall into someone's arms, then it doesn't matter how hard you're being pushed away. You have that safety net. You have that alternative. You just imagine the Prophet ﷺ in Mecca, a few small hand-picked number of Muslims, right? Bilal, Khabbab, just a few people, right? And the Prophet ﷺ is exiled from Mecca. And this is an interesting pattern. Vast majority of prophets at some point were exiled or thrown into the no man's land. He's exiled from Mecca. Get out. Nobody trade with them. Nobody marry them. Nobody deal. Nobody talk to them. Of course he's going to feel FOMO. These are his uncles, his cousins, his people, his familia.
Yeah.
He's thrown into the middle of nowhere. His wife passes away. His uncle passes away. Where does he find belonging? He stares into the eyes of people like Bilal, people like Abu Bakr. They're suffering. They're hungry. Maybe their relatives are dying and ill. But he looks into their eyes and he sees the commitment and the conviction to Allah. And it helps him go the next day. So Allah says, وَلَا تَعْدُ عَيْنَاكَ عَنْهُمْ. Don't even look away from those people. Because even just seeing them is a reassurance, it's the fuel to keep you going.
Yeah. And I think that further just strengthens the point of why you need that strong why. Because if you don't have that strong why, you'll never truly feel as connected to strangers purely based on La ilaha illallah. You need that why for that.
Absolutely. I remember, I think I mentioned this story to you before. I remember at the Freshers dinner, first week dinner, set in the Islamic Society dinner, and sitting with a bunch of brothers, and we're having some food, and one brother says, I'd never seen him before, and I think it's the first time he'd come to an Islamic Society event. And he said, I'm just so happy to be sat with a bunch of Asian lads eating curry. And I thought to myself, that's why he's here. He was looking for his ethnic club. Right? So not everybody sees it as they're just looking for some familiarity.
Yeah.
It might be curry, it might be Asians, it might be Arabs. But it's those people who come and maybe they don't vibe with you, they don't get along with you on an ethnic or a cultural or a familial front. They're so different to you. The only thing you're sharing is your belief. And that's when you know that that's real brotherhood, real sisterhood. You experience it for the first time.
Yeah.
Like randomers. And probably maybe you're chalk and cheese, you don't actually get along. But solely because of your beliefs, you actually do get along. When you have that brotherhood and sisterhood, no superficial friendship outside of that space no friendship can ever come to as close as that bond. The bond built upon La ilaha illallah. That's why Allah says, Al-akhilla yawma'idhin ba'duhum li ba'din aduwwun illa al-muttaqin. Close friends on the Day of Judgment will be enemies to each other, except those who feared Allah, those who were conscious of Allah, whose relationship was built upon Allah. When everybody's running away from each other, throwing each other under the bus, they'd be like, you're good friends. That's an enduring bond. All other bonds they evaporate eventually.
So maybe the best cure for FOMO, the best cure for saying no to those things that you're tempted to go to, is realizing the sweetness on the other side, realizing the sweetness of what true brotherhood, true sisterhood is.
And there is literally that word, sweetness, is how the Prophet ﷺ describes Iman. He says 3 things. If you've experienced them, you've experienced the sweetness of Iman. One of those 3 things, he says, for you to love a person and you only love them for the sake of Allah. There's a sweetness to that you've never experienced. There's nothing else in life that comes close to that. The more of that sweetness you experience, the more bitter you find all the other environments and all the other things that you say no to. And the more repulsed you are by them. You don't actually find it exciting or interesting.
Yeah, because even though I live at home, I still do have my fair share of these situations. And I think it was in second year after COVID kind of phased away. And there was someone in my kind of study group, the university class. We were kind of outside, we just left the building from the class, and they were all going to the pub, like usual. And I think there was some sort of big medical student party going on. And they were all going, and they invited me as well. And I told them that I don't want to go because I'm Muslim. And the exact same dialogue that everyone goes through. Okay, but you don't have to, drink alcohol. Why don't you just go and not drink the alcohol? And because I was in my second year, I'm so used to my friends from Islamic society, Muslim friends, that Muslim community. It was very easy for me to actually say, it's not that I don't want to go. It's that it actually disgusts me to go. That environment disgusts me. It's not that I'm not going because I'm not allowed to drink alcohol. I'm not going because I hate that environment. And then it was so easy for them to back off. They were like, okay.
All right. Okay. Leave them to it.
Yeah. But they didn't leave me to it. They respected it. They genuinely respected it.
I think it's another important thing is we underestimate how understanding people can be.
Mm.
Like, the thing is, today there's a lack of values of people saying no to things. People just shapeshift. So to see somebody with values, people are actually like, oh, interesting. They actually respect you for it. If you're a people pleaser, you might end up in the situation where like, oh, I wonder what they think of me. But you might be overestimating yourself. Nobody really thinks about you too much.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, they genuinely, I think they respect you. Like, they genuinely, they won't just be okay with it. They'll be like, wow, in their brain, okay, that's unique. And maybe even, wow, that's unique. I want to hear more about what this is, where this is coming from, because I haven't met someone like this who's so strict and sincere on what they believe in. So what do they believe in?
Absolutely. And I've had a lot of conversations come out of those kind of conversations where you've got your boundaries, you're pushing them. People are like, wow, people have boundaries. People have red lines. I'd like to know more about these and why they exist. So yeah, it's spurred a lot of conversations. But then there's another thing. All your life, if you've lived in a bubble, you've never had a situation where you've had to explain why or what you believe to someone else. You never had to articulate it to someone else. And now you're in a situation where you're maybe either backed up against a wall or having a polite discussion, and you have to say, like, who am I, what I believe. Nothing can prepare you for that moment. Now you're in that moment, and you realize that actually this is a moment, an opportunity for you to invite people to Allah. It's actually insane.
Yeah.
Because you can see it as like, oh, I gotta avoid this. But actually, it's an opportunity if you're confident enough to share that message.
It's almost like instead of them peer pressuring you, you're peer pressuring them.
I think there's one interesting thing you mentioned before about peer pressure, which is this idea that when you're at home growing up, you have this peer pressure from your friends, and then you have this counter pressure from your family, right? So you have like two opposing forces. And these two opposing forces, Newton's laws of physics, you end up staying in the middle. But you come to university, suddenly that pressure from your family is gone. And you have that maybe increased pressure. The pressure's gone up, the temptation, the fitna, the test, etc. has gone up. You need an equivalent amount of pressure, either internally or from your surroundings. And maybe you can exert some pressure as well, gently.
Sort of net zero.
Net zero, yeah.
Net 5.
Net 5. That's the thing. I think getting to a positive net, pressure is actually a good thing. Is this idea where I'm comfortable within myself of who I am and why I am, and who are my people. I think that pretty much summarizes, the three questions: who am I, why am I, and who are my people. And once you have that, and it's deeply ingrained in you, it's easy to engage in a conversation because you're chilling.
And yeah, we could sit here all day and talk about all the different sorts of interactions you're going to deal with, the first club invitation, to the alcohol in the fridge, to the parties in your accommodation. But I think it all has that underlying theme, that same theme. If you are truly strong enough with that why internally, and you can exert that pressure to turn it into a net zero or a positive net the other way, then I think it's the same skill essentially that you're dealing with.
And I would say one more thing is, we talked about the dominoes. Is that what I found from my chaplaincy experience talking to university students is we say there's a first domino that drops and everything else starts getting compromised. From all of the hundreds of students I've spoken to, the first domino is Salah. The moment we compromise Salah, drop it to 2 times a day or just nothing, everything else just comes crashing down. Everything comes crashing down. And Allah talks about this in the Quran. فَخَلَفَ مِن بَعْدِهِمْ خَلْفٌ أَضَاعُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَاتَّبَعُوا الشَّهَوَاتِ. A generation came, they just abandoned their salah and they ended up just wildly running after their desires. So guard the first domino. Guard the salah and everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, because I think some people listening to this might think, okay, but I've been praying all my life, 5 times a day. Why are you telling me this? How's university going to change that? But I think when you've got such a changed routine, you're among people that are so much different to you. you do realize that that is the one thing that gets threatened. When you're with your Muslim friends, if everyone is praying, it's almost like that net positive.
Yeah.
You're increasing your chances of making sure you pray on time
Mm.
because everyone's reminding each other. But when you're hanging out with non-Muslims who don't pray,
Mm.
then net zero isn't enough.
Mm.
You can't just rely on the fact that other people are going to remind you of prayer.
Mm.
You need a net positive. You need to put your foot down and say,
Mm.
I need to pray right now. Is it okay if I leave the room? Or can we stop what we're doing so I can quickly pray and come back?
Mm.
Net zero isn't enough. You do need a positive
You need
net.
that. And, you know, you can think about it this way. It's like at university, there's so many variables, right? Your routine, your lectures, your modules, your friends, everything is changing. The only constant in your life is Salah.
Mm.
Everything else varies.
And another thing I think is the idea of nipping it in the bud. I think the biggest struggle is that first time that you mention it.
Mm.
I need to go out and pray. Can I come back in a few minutes and we can restart something? After that first bump, the snowball's going down the hill and it's accumulating. And now every single time you remind them that you need to pray,
Yeah.
it's going to become easier for you, easier for you, easier for you. And that's why I think this time now, right at the start of the year, is the most important time to lay down the rules that you have for yourself, not just to yourself, but to verbalize it to everyone else around you. Because then throughout the next 3 to 5 years that you're at university, it's already there. The building's there. You've built it.
And it's all about building on top of that now.
Mm.
Building the roots and the foundations. Deepening the roots so you can taste the fruits.